Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises and glories to Allah, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Akwakadash. Much love and respect to the elders and apostles and bishops of Great Millstone. Also, much love and respect to you, Akim, all around the world that's doing this work in sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the few sisters that's in the silence, to the spirit and power of our Lord, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua. So, here it is. You have this single, 1,000 women that showed up at this single event at this church, but no men didn't show up, and why is that? It's because these men know that it's a bad deal, and pretty much these women, they're already, past their primes, because I could guarantee you that most of these women that showed up, these 1,000 women, they're probably, they're probably 30 and up, and and for the most part, these women, they probably have kids already. All right, so that's already a disqualification right there, and which you have most cases that you have men that would get with a woman, she may have a kid or whatever, or and they settle, you have you know you know that's just what it is, because we're just in captivity, so that's part of the curses. But for the most part, these men are not showing up, all right, because they already know the baggage that they coming with. They already know, you know, there's another man probably involved in their lives and this and that. So these are the kind of scenarios that men face. They know these things. So what's the point, But real quick, I'm gonna play a little bit of the video, then I'm gonna get into some scriptures proving that, we didn't have this back in the day, Back in the day, we didn't have shit like this back in the day. All right? Everything was in order. But this is what you call disorder right here, where everything is just completely out of order in the society due to feminism, okay? And the so-called white man knew what he was doing when he set that whole feminism up. That was to destroy the family. Because I bet you back in the day, back in the 60s and all of that, you didn't have shit like this back then. You didn't have shit like this back then, nor back in the ancient world, But, due to feminism and the destruction of the family, this is what you got. All right, this is what you have. All right, but let me play real quick a little bit, and then I'm gonna get into some scriptures.
I don't think she's joking when she says that. You'd be surprised. Like, chicks will look around and see other people getting married, the few that are, and they'll think, well, my turn is coming, not understanding that they're part of a large demographic right now of chicks who are projected to be single and childless. And this is the future for a lot of women who refuse to settle for a man. And of course, we mean settle in quotation marks, because it's not settling, but being more realistic in the dating market. And if they did that, if they instead married before they carried, you guys know the whole spew here. I don't have to go through it every single time. You know exactly why this is. And it's only going to get worse. And we've been watching this train wreck happening slowly as they start to figure it out. Like a room full of singles. Look at that. And I'm like, this has to be an experiment. Like, this has to be like assimilation. Is that the word I want to use? I think so. Like, I'm confused and I'm like low key, like nervous, like for us. Wishing for myself, like y'all. Because where are the men? Where are the men? Then again, where are the men? Never mind. We know where they at. Right. So she's like, we know where they're at. And what do you think she means by that? That's probably a dig to all their DL. Oh, they're, some type of a dig. I don't know what it is. I know it is. Let's check out some of these comments and see what the people have to say. Where are the men? Top comment here that we already read says Kevin Samuels was right. Let's see who responded. This person here says, rest in peace, R.I.P. Kevin Samuels. Somebody else says, you get it. Another person here says, it's the internet making everyone think they can do better. Is it? Is it? We were never supposed to see this many people. We ate the apple. So, to the chick here who says it's the internet, and let's grant her this argument here. Where is your man? Because I actually do partly agree.
Your man. You see? So, like, Eve said in that segment, oh, we already know where they at. Yeah, you already know where they at. All right, they're out in the streets. All right, that's where they at. They ain't up in these churches because they know it's a waste of time. All right, they already know it's a waste of time. All right, you women, if you look in that clip, it looks like these women are pretty much, in their 30s to probably like 40s. They already probably have kids, 5 kids already. So what kind of sense does that make a man coming up in there trying to get with you? It doesn't benefit him. What's beneficial to him? How does that benefit him? It doesn't. All right, it doesn't benefit these men. Okay? Because your women, you already used up already. It's just like, you trying to settle for a car that's that already has over 200,000 miles on it already. Like, who wants that? Now let's say if it was the other way around. Let's say if there was 1,000 young women that were virgins, that haven't been touched by any men. I bet you there'll be all kind of men up in there. All right, best believe it. But we didn't have this nonsense back in the ancient world, and this is why society is going down. This is why things are going down. This is why the society got to go down. Everything got to be reset, so to say. Because this is the kind of nonsense that you're going to get. All right? All right? So, anyway, let me just jump in the scriptures. So, let's go to a story here. All right? I'm going to get to the point. So, here it is. The tribe of Benjamin. All right? So, the tribe of Benjamin went to war with Israel due to the fact that the tribe of Benjamin had slain this the Levite's concubine and cut her up into pieces and sent her body parts throughout the course of Israel, throughout the land of Israel. All right, so they went to war. Okay. So the tribe of Benjamin was literally almost wiped out. All right, so it was only down to 600 men. Okay, but this is what happened. All right, this is what happened here. So there was a tribe that didn't go to the oath. So what happened was that that tribe that didn't go to the oath, they were slain. But this is what happened. Let's get to the point. So it says, let me start up. So, the tribes already made an oath or made a vow that they wouldn't give their daughters to wife to Benjamin. So, and so it repented them that, a tribe would be cut off out of the nation of Israel. So what happened was that, you know, they made preservation for the tribe of Benjamin to survive. So it says preservation for their survival and reading. And they said that, and they said, what what one is there of the tribe of Israel that came not up to the um Messiah of the Lord? And behold, they came not up the camp of um Jebus Jebusel something. I can't pronounce that. Salakia, to the assembly. For the people were numbered, and behold, there were none of the inhabitants of Jebusel there. So, and the congregation sent thither 12,000 men of of Velites, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jeb with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. And this is the thing that ye shall do. Ye shall utterly destroy every male and every woman that have lain by man. What does that mean? Destroy every woman that a man that laid with these women. All right. So that was the commandment. And they found among the inhabitants of Jeb 400 young virgins. You see that? That had known no man by laying with any male. What does that mean? So these women have not been touched by any man. All right. And it says young virgins, young women. Okay. So going back to that clip, you know, if these women were young women and were virgins, you best believe that there would be men up in there. But these women are all they're taken already. All right. They already had been laying, or you know. And they brought them onto the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. And the whole congregation sent some to speak to the children of Benjamin that were in the rock Raman, and they called peacefully unto them. And Benjamin came again at the time, and they gave them wives which they had so saved the lives of the women of Jeb, and yet so they they sufficient them not. So pretty much it was not enough, because it was only 400 of them, you know, and there was only like 600 men left of the tribe of Benjamin. So, but the point is that these women were virgins, were young women. All right, they weren't women that already been laid up with another man already. All right. All right, they were not women that were already taken or already had, you know, sex with another man already. All right, they killed those women off, and they gave them virgins. All right, virgins. So things were done differently back in the ancient world compared to now. All right. So, you know, it's all backwards. It's all out of course, you know. Like our forefather King David said, all the foundations of the earth are out of course. So this is why you see that this place is not, like, this society just doesn't work anymore. It's not working. All right, it's a mess here. It's an utter disaster. So this is why our Lord Yahweh Shai is coming back to set the reset button, to press the reset button on this place, because everything is out of whack here. All right. So these men already know that it's a bad deal. And it is a bad deal because how many of those 1,000 women are virgins, are young women? How many of them that don't have any kids? Well, these women could still been laid up already. Chances are they already done had sex already, but don't have kids. But at the same time, it's like, what are you getting? You're not really getting anything special. All right. So let's get the precept in Proverbs. Is it 31? Yeah, Proverbs 31:10. And it reads, "Who could find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies." Okay. So, King Solomon is saying, who could find a virtuous woman? You can't really. All right. You can't find a virtuous woman. Because King Solomon, when he looked upon 1,000 women, he found not one righteous woman out of 1,000 women. Okay. So, what makes you think these men are gonna find not one virgin out of these 1,000 women that are at this that are at this singles event? You see? So it's all nonsense. You know. Let's look up the word virtuous. Strength, ability, efficiency, wealth, force, army. Well, that's what they got here. Let me see if I clicked on the right one. But yeah, that's the definition here. But yeah, you can't find a virtuous woman in the society, you know, like a virgin. So this is why, the Lord Yahweh Shai has to come back and press the reset button on this place because it's an utter mess. All right, you're not really getting anything. The only person that's getting the cream of the crop is, Esau, you know, and these other nations. All right, here it is, Esau. He getting the cream of the crop. Here it is. He could deal with these young women, you know, in the Epstein files, and have these young women that haven't been touched by no man, and deal with them. But let's say if it was you that you want a young woman that you want to grab up and deal with a young woman, you get called a pedophile. You get called a rapist. You know, you get ridiculed for that. But here it is, the devil, the so-called white man, he could deal with these young women, and there's no pushback against that. There's no outrage. Why? Because he's in his power. All right. All right. And when you're in your power, you can do what you want. You know. All right. The rules doesn't apply to you. Which is applied for the slaves. You could deal with a young woman. But according to the law, according to our culture, the Israelite culture, we could deal with young women. All right. We could lay with a damsel that's not betrothed by a man. Okay. And once you lay with that damsel, you pay the father the 50 shekels of silver, the diary. And that young woman, she becomes your wife. All right. But we can't do that here in this society. If we do that, we'll be sentenced to jail. We'll be sentenced to 10 years in prison, or however long they sentence you for rape. All right. But you see, that's lawful according to the scriptures. It's absolutely lawful, to deal with a young woman that's a virgin, that hasn't been betrothed by a man. But if we try it here now, you get sentenced to jail. All right. But this is why, our Lord Yahweh Shah is coming back. All right. And to set us up into power. All right. The Israelites and this world is going to be ruled in righteousness. All right. This is why this is why nobody's happy, because the world is being ruled in wickedness. All right. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. Giving all praises and glories due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Bashim Rakwakadash. Shalom.